a TCM physician. So all of you have had your tea breaks? But are you all afresh for my part of the talk? Sure not. Okay, I'm going to teach you one exercise first from the traditional Chinese method. Okay, this exercise has a history of thousands of years, and actually is one of the exercise for health preservation. So in Chinese, this exercise is called Ming Tian Gu, and in English is translated as sounding the heavenly drums, which you'll know why later. So I'll just show you how to do it first. So later, you'll have both palms placed over your ears. Later, okay, just watch me first. Then you'll situate your index and middle finger close to the base of your skull. Then you'll cross your index finger over the middle finger, and with your eyes closed later, you will flick and hit the index finger at the base of the skull like this. Okay? So we'll do this for 30 times with your eyes closed, and 3 things to note when you are doing this exercise. Firstly, you need to press your both palms firmly against the ear to keep out all other sounds. Secondly, you need to keep your eyes closed. And thirdly, what you're going to get is you'll hear the sound of boom, boom, boom across the whole of your head. Alright? So with all of you sitting up straight, okay, now place both palms across your ears, press it in tightly, then cross your index finger over the middle finger. Now with your eyes closed, and on the count of 3, we'll do this for 30 times, and when you're done, open your eyes and feel the difference. Okay, now ready, close your eyes and go. Okay, when you are done, you open your eyes and you can feel the difference. You can see me clearer. Yeah? No? Alright, so this exercise you can teach to all your children or your friends who are like so low in energy during talks. Huh? Okay? So let me explain a bit about this exercise, the scientific benefits. Okay? So what you're doing when you do this, you actually hear the boom, boom, boom sound. It's actually creating micro vibrations between the head and your brain. So what this does is it will increase the blood flow to your brain. So if you do this long term and every day, it's going to help improve your memory and also in facial rejuvenation, which means it's for anti-dementia and also anti-aging. Huh? Yes. It is. You can go and check. So from the TCM point of view, because we believe that the ear is very closely related to our kidney, and then the kidney is related to aging and longevity. So by stimulating the ear and this head area very often, it's going to invigorate the kidney qi, which ultimately will lead to longer life and better quality of life. Alright? So I'm going to start my talk about taking good care of yourself, and if you are doing it right, okay, just give me a few minutes to introduce myself. Okay, I graduated with a bachelor degree in biomedical science and traditional Chinese medicine from NTU. All right, and the same year attained the international diploma in yoga teaching. Thereafter, I went on to further my studies in acupuncture and attained the master's degree in 2013. So by then, I have already stayed in Beijing and China for about 6 to 7 years. All right. So then, next month, I'm going to be conferred the doctorate degree in acupuncture, and by now, it has been 11 years of study and practicing traditional Chinese medicine. All right. So, yeah, tough journey. Okay, so my specializations are in orthopedics, where I see a lot of acute injury and chronic pain, aesthetics, slimming, anti-aging, facial rejuvenation, You can guess my age. Then as gastroenterology, which means all gastric and digestive problems, be it constipation, gastric reflux, etc., etc. And pediatrics, where I use a lot of xiao tuina or pediatric massage to help treat diseases for children and also for general health management. All right. So now I'm a consultant physician at 5 different clinics. So across the whole of Orchard Road, Raffles Place, and also Marina Bay, and also do some on-site treatments with some companies. So we'll begin about talking about taking care of yourself and if you are doing it right from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective. But first, I'd like to throw you a few questions and see if you ring a bell with them or you ring a bell with those people around you. So question 1. Do you have the habit of finding yourself in the morning rush to go to work and skip breakfast? Question 2. Do you have the habit of taking cold drinks or cold food? Definitely in Singapore. Question 3. Do you have the habit of sleeping late or finding it nothing wrong to sleep late and then wake up late? Question 4. Do you have the habit of losing temper or becoming angry easily? Wow. Makes me feel so important now to come here. Okay, but first we need to understand some concepts of traditional Chinese medicine health preservation. So, in health preservation is a branch of TCM that teaches practical ways of preventing illness, which I have done at the start of this talk by imparting you one way of preventing illness and maintaining good health throughout one's life. So this pursuit of health and longevity has especially influenced the lifestyles of Chinese and Asians over 2,000 years. Now, the preservation of health, rather than simply the treatment of disease, is one of the most important guiding principles of traditional Chinese medicine. Now, a paragraph from one of our main foundational texts in TCM, which we have to memorize as TCM physicians, which is called the Huangdi Neijing, or in English it's called Medical Classic of the Yellow Emperor. It says, in the old days, the sages treated disease by preventing illness before it began, just as a good government or emperor was able to take the necessary steps to avert war. Now, treating an illness after it has begun is like suppressing revolt after it has broken out. If someone digs a well only when thirsty or forges weapons only after becoming engaged in battle, one cannot help but ask, aren't these actions a little too late? So then people will start to ask, so what should I do for health preservation? Should I take more supplements or take more tonics? Or should I get those electromagnetic apparatus to balance my ions even more? Now, the answer is not about what more you need to get, but working with what you already have, which is your lifestyle. Now, as a Ming Dynasty Chinese physician says, it is man himself who governs his life, and he who abuses himself dies young, while he who takes good care of himself enjoys a long life. Now, in many ancient TCM classics, guides are set out to healthy living, not by prescribing medicine, but a way of life in tune with the universe and body's rhythms and cycles. Now, in acupuncture, we say that our whole body has around 362 classical acupoints. Now, you can notice that this number is very much in sync with the number that we have in a year, which is 365 days. So this is a way where the ancestors are telling us that our body is very much in sync with the nature and universe. So this is where I come here to advise you on how to take good care of yourself in the right way. And I'm going to discuss about some aspects of modern lifestyles and whether they are helping you or hindering you from having a good health. Now, so we go back to scenario 1, which says, I have woken up late and I need to rush to work. I shall just skip my breakfast and I'll make it up with a brunch. Now, this is the scenario that I've posted at the start. And to answer this question, whether they are good, whether it's doing any good to your health, we need to know a bit about how our digestive system works according to traditional Chinese medicine. And before that, whenever I talk about organs and organ system from the TCM point of view, it is defined functionally as opposed to anatomically. In other words, organs and organ systems in TCM are defined mainly by their role and not just the physical organ or tissue like Western medicine. Therefore, when you read about TCM text, we often write the organ with a capital letter to differentiate from the organ defined from the Western medicine. Now, I'll give you an example, spleen. In Western medicine, the functions is defined by its association closely with the anatomy. However, in spleen in TCM, the definitions can be expanded to encompass the physical, psychological, and emotional aspects in the body. Now, returning to the review of the digestive system workings in TCM, the two primary organs closely related are the spleen and stomach. And let me give you a simplified analogy of how they work in our body. In digestion, the stomach is like the woodman who chops up the firewood, accepting the food, which in this case is the firewood, as it comes in and chopping it, organizing it and making it ready for the fire, which is the spleen, to burn up. So as the spleen begins to burn the firewood, sent over by the stomach, heat and steam then arises from the fireplace. Now the heat and steam is the qi, or the vital energy that is required for all other organs to function properly and for one to be energized. So it is important to maintain a strong and healthy fire, or I call it the digestive fire, also known as the spleen. Now when you go to bed, the fire is still going, but will eventually turn to embers throughout the night. Now when you wake up in the morning, the easiest way to get the fire going again is to stoke the fire with some kind of kindling. So, eating breakfast is like putting wood pieces into the embers to rekindle and build up the fire. So if a person skips breakfast, he may end up finding that he is lethargic the whole day, as the digestive fire is too weak to burn any firewood introduced later from the stomach. Thus, little vital energy or qi is being transformed from the food for distribution to the rest of the body. Now you may argue, what if I wake up later, like 11 a.m. or 12, and then just combine my breakfast and lunch? Isn't it the same? Now I will touch on this later, as I will introduce you about the TCM Body Clock, where simplified saying is there's a time for everything. Okay, we'll just move to scenario 2. It says, I like taking cold drinks and foods, especially in Singapore where the weather is always so hot. Now returning to the analogy of fireplace, what food you eat really affects the strength of the digestive fire. So, eating a smoothie, a raw fruit, or taking an ice cold drink is like putting undried pieces of wood into the digestive fire. Now, it will take forever for the digestive fire to break that down if it doesn't just put out the fire completely. So, anything that is not broken down properly will remain as dampness in our body, or we say 痰湿 in Chinese. So, this dampness will then slow down the transformation of food to energy and blood, leaving one sluggish and low in energy. So, in the long term, this dampness will stagnate and lower the metabolism of the person. So if this dampness is not cleared, weight gain will then prevail, as we have a saying in Chinese, 肥人多痰湿, which means people who are plump have more dampness trapped inside their body. Now in TCM, when I say cold food, it not only refers to the temperature of the food, but also the characteristics of food. Now in TCM, food is divided into 3 characteristics, mainly cooling, warming, and neutral food. Obviously, cooling food will add cooling effects to the body, and warming food will add warming effects to the body. Now, when a person is healthy and balanced in his body constitution, one should take a variety of foods of various characteristics, with neutral foods such as rice, potato as the main component in a meal, and then complemented with a balance of cooling foods and warming foods. However, in Singapore, I noticed that more and more people are taking salads, raw fruits, raw vegetables as their main food for a meal. Now in TCM, salads, raw vegetable, raw fruits fall under the category of food of very cooling characteristics. Now taking these raw fruits frequently as a full meal are equivalent to taking much ice-cold drinks and comparable to putting undried pieces of wood into the digestive fire. Many digestive problems such as gastric reflux, constipation, loose stools, irritable bowel syndrome, and especially weight problems that I've seen nowadays are very much associated to taking too much of these cold and cooling foods. So that's why when you see TCM physicians, all of us will tell you to avoid cold drinks and cold foods during treatment and also in your everyday life. So now you understand why. Okay, now we'll go to scenario 3. I have to work late into the night. It is okay for me to sleep late and then wake up late. So in TCM, there's a time for everything, and timing and schedule are crucial to maintaining health. Now in TCM, Qi, or we say vital energy, flows to 12 principal meridians throughout the body in a 24-hour cycle. Now when Qi flows through a specific meridian, it takes around 2 hours to vitalize and strengthen the organ system associated to that particular meridian before continuing to subsequent meridians. In other words, Qi, or vital energy, has its peak flow time through each organ-linked meridian for a duration of 2 hours in each 24-hour cycle. Therefore, you living according to the clock and completing the appropriate activity at the right time ensure the energy flows properly and the associated organ system works at its best, and therefore strengthening health. Now, TCM Body Clock is a very interesting and big topic in TCM, but for today's talk, I'll just zoom in and focus on certain time periods of the clock. Now, we'll bring our attention to the time period between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Now, from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., the energy circulates through the gallbladder and liver, which are paired organs in TCM as both organs run along the same meridian. Now, the TCM functions of liver and gallbladder are to harmonize digestion, nurture all connective tissues, regulate emotion, support bone health, store blood and therefore regulate menstruation and reproductivity, govern vision, and interestingly, strategic planning skills and execution. So it is thought that if sleep is frequently not occurring during the gallbladder and liver time, the results could be that the person may start to develop poor judgment, low self-esteem, and difficulty in making decisions, which are often seen in psychological problems such as depression. So a good sleep during this time will prevent a number of health problems from happening, particularly for people who suffer from migraines, depression, anxiety, premenstrual syndrome, and gastric reflux. So in TCM, the best time to go to bed is before 11 p.m. so that the gallbladder and the liver can best accomplish their jobs when one is fast asleep. Okay, we'll bring our focus to time period between 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., which is the time of the large intestine. Now, during this time, Qi flow concentrates in the large intestine. Now, in TCM, large intestine is in charge of functions such as receiving waste material from small intestine, absorbing fluid content, and excreting waste. So much about the same as the physical definition of Western medicine. So during 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., it is the optimal time for your body to move its bowels and the optimum time to drink warm water, as drinking warm water before taking anything else into the body will help to get the lymphatic system working. So we can see that much bodily toxins and waste are removed from the body at this time, and therefore 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. is the best time to wake up. Okay. Cannot do it also. Okay. Now then we move on to 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. is the stomach high functioning time, and eating should be done in this time period. Then the spleen is working at its peak from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and eating should be completed by this time. Now if you can refer back to the start of the talk where I told you about the importance of not skipping breakfast, We cannot understand why. I will advise you to not wake up later and then combine your breakfast with lunch in the hope to say that I still eat breakfast but only later. Yeah? So on a side note, many people who come to me for weight issues, one of my advice to them is you eat your breakfast early so that the body can receive the maximum amount of energy from the food, and then you will feel more energized throughout the rest of the day. So if you sleep later, then wake up later to eat your breakfast, less energy by then can be tapped from the food you eat from your brunch or lunch, as you have already missed the high functioning time of the two important organs tackled in weight issues. So then you end up eating more and overeating throughout the rest of the day as you keep feeling lethargic and wanting to eat to boost up the energy. So you see the importance of doing the appropriate things at the right time now. Alright, so let's go to the last scenario. I have the habit of losing temper. What's wrong with that? Now, emotions are of course a natural part of being human. Now, feeling joy, sadness, and anger are all perfectly normal experiences we have in our day-to-day lives. Now, it is only when these emotions become excessive, repressed, or turn inward that they can become pathological and cause diseases. Now, TCM has acknowledged the role of emotions in health and well-being for over 2,000 years. According to the theories of TCM, each emotion corresponds to a certain organ, like seen in this chart. Now, this is not to say that you experience any of these emotions, it means that the organ is out of balance, but rather that any extreme case of fluctuation of these emotions may be related to a problem with that organ. So emotions in TCM have slightly different meanings than their Western interpretations. Now in TCM, joy, for example, refers to a state of agitation or overexcitement rather than elation. Now it is related very closely to the heart, and this emotion is correlated with heart palpitations, repeated agitation, and insomnia. Now, anger in TCM is considered to represent resentment, frustration, and irritability. Now, anger affects the liver, causing its energy or qi to rise and result in headaches and dizziness. Now, pensiveness and worrisome is thought to be an excess of mental stimulation that can affect the spleen. Now, this can result in fatigue, lethargy, and difficulty in concentration. Lungs are associated with the feeling of grief. Now, unresolved grief can lead to problems with general energy and one's life force or qi. Because in TCM, we believe that lungs is the one that distribute the qi throughout the rest of the body. So one may experience chest tightness, frequent long sighs, and a prolonged sense of sadness that does not dissipate if excessive grief is experienced and not expressed and resolved. Like the other emotions, fear is considered normal and at times an inevitable emotion. However, if it becomes chronic or settles as a deep anxiety, the kidneys can be affected. Now, I would like to bring our attention to the emotion anger. Now, we can see that anger is closely related to liver in TCM. We know that in Western medicine, liver has the function of body toxin detoxification. Now, this function is also seen in TCM, but on top of physical toxin detoxification, liver also has the role of emotional detoxification, also known as anger detoxification. Therefore, I would like to bring you back again to the previous part of the talk where I told you about TCM Body Clock, and it is recommended that one should sleep between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. So by knowing that the gallbladder and liver works best between 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., and that anger is the emotion closely related to liver, it does make sense that we should sleep at the hours of gallbladder and liver to allow maximal energy to be diverted for detoxification physically and emotionally. This also explains why an early night's sleep is congruent with a healthy body and mind. Now, interestingly, if you find yourself waking up at 1 to 3 a.m. very often during the liver time, it may be linked to latent anger or frustration that you have experienced in the day, which is overwhelming the liver as it tries to detoxify these emotions at these hours. Now, so emotions are considered to be normal and healthy. It is only when they become extreme or uncontrollable that they can open the door to diseases. Now, TCM believes that emotions are the major cause of disease within the body. So, when people who often lose their temper may ultimately find that their temper problem manifested physically in the form of liver or gallbladder diseases. However, TCM also believes that emotions are the most easily influenced and manipulated, which means that with the right attention and treatment, emotions and their corresponding illness can change. TCM is unique in its belief that cause and effect are not linear, but circular. What this means is the cause of an ailment may be an emotion, but also an ailment can lead to an emotion. So people with very bad temper can have diseases very much related to the liver, and people with liver problems can in turn have very bad temper. So by striving to balance the organ related to the person's emotional state, the emotion can be balanced as well, and vice versa. Now, acupuncture is one way to accomplish this realignment. And for the benefits of those who do not know, acupuncture is the practice of gently inserting needles into specific points on the body to benefit a person's qi or life force. This is just a simple definition. There are certain points used in acupuncture that accord with specific organs, and treating these points is how feelings and acupuncture can interplay. Now, you may like to ask, so what can acupuncture treat? Then I would like you to rephrase your question to what can acupuncture not treat, which are problems that have reached the stage that require surgery attention or what you have seen in Dr. Ang's talk. All right. So other than that, ranging from gastrointestinal disorders to psychological disorders, from chronic to acute conditions, from active treatments to preventive therapies, there is nothing acupuncture is incapable of. However, conditions do apply to my above statement. And what do I mean by that? Now, TCM and acupuncture is a form of medicine that is patient-centric and not simply disease-centric. In Chinese, we say 以人为本. So during the course of treatment, the interaction and relation between the patient and physician is very important. What this means is patients do have a role in the journey of recovery with TCM methods. Why? Because a lot of time, the TCM treatment requires the patient to return for treatments and reviews. And the reason why we are doing so is because we as physicians need to tailor the treatments according to how your body changes along the course of healing. So because TCM treatments, especially acupuncture, we don't give any medication, no other external pills or chemicals. We are just simply stimulating your body's potential to heal and rebalance by itself. And thus, its effects will take time and effort to accumulate. So therefore, when I say there is nothing acupuncture is incapable of, it is under the condition that you as patients have to put in an effort to diligently go for treatments, go for reviews, and follow the advices of physicians. So other than acupuncture, TCM of course includes other forms of therapies listed here, which I have practiced as well, but I won't go into further details. Now to sum up, health preservation is not about how much you are giving the body, but how you carry yourself through everyday life. And hence, it is not about addition, but regulation. So I hope that after today's talk, you'll be able to take good care of yourself in the right way.